I was just so touched the other night. There was a side event for Pam. I don't know if any of you were there. I know Andy was. And just hearing so many of the people, how much they loved her, and especially the Indigenous peoples, how she totally transformed their lives and their situation was just so beautiful, how one person could make such an impact on so many people. I know she made sure so many young women went to school, and even Jitin, when he was in prison in India for human rights, they got him on certain things. She was able to get him out of prison because he was totally, obviously innocent. And it was just so beautiful to hear everybody's stories about how she was their fairy godmother and how she touched their lives in profound ways. So just so many ways I wasn't even aware of. So she's just really a tribute to how one person could make such a huge impact on hundreds of people's lives. And I know we're going to miss her so much.
And was that recorded, or did anyone take notes at the side session?
It was
I am recording.
I wish I had known that it was happening.
Well, Andy, it's out, right? That's the recording you sent.
Yeah, Nina sent me the file on I believe, and so I think it's going to be edited. Usually Roberto does edits, and then with a little title slide on the front, and maybe taking out extraneous stuff, and then we'll post it. So
I also, not to interrupt you, Andrew, I did get a message just now from the site of a video, so I'm going to try and bring it over so that I can play it for you all.
Great.
Okay, just a little time lag.
Technology's finally working in our favor a little bit. Hold on, take me a moment, so continue talking, but I'll be right back.
Yeah. Yeah, and if anybody else wants to say anything, I actually had a few statements that I was going to say at the side event I could say if you want.
Please.
Of course.
Okay. I'm speaking to you from the traditional land of the Penobscots of the Wabanaki Confederacy, what the United States calls the coast of Maine. I'm thankful we have this opportunity. Written down a few points I thought I could offer so I don't miss anything. And well, at that time we didn't have much time. I met Pam in 1998 and shortly thereafter started working with Tribal Link and have been doing so off and on since then. When I first started, as far as I remember, it was basically us and Roberto when we were working on the International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples. I think you came on a few years later, right, Diane, like in early 2000s? Is that right?
I think it was the end of the 90s.
And 99? Okay. Yeah, it was pretty soon thereafter. Yep. And we were working on the International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples, which is an annual event held on August 9th. And before the Permanent Forum, it was one of the most important annual Indigenous events at the UN. And I was immediately struck by her deep devotion and connection to Indigenous peoples and her drive to make the events happen in a good way, as they say, no matter what. I guess, one second, okay. I guess the main thing I can offer is a little look behind the scenes, and I can tell you, not surprisingly, that her work with Tribal Link really was the most important aspect of her life. She was extremely motivated in her work. Even when she wasn't working, she was thinking and dreaming up solutions for the issues that came her way because she truly cared. Excuse me. And then she would put her thoughts down in one of dozens of notebooks at all times, nights, weekends, it didn't matter. She worked more as an artist or a magician than an administrative organizer. Sometimes I would have a look at one of her notebooks and I have no idea how anyone could accomplish anything from her scratchings, her ideas, connections, circles, arrows, all over the place. Tribal Link is really a perfect name for this organization. As you all know, she was not only linking Indigenous peoples to the UN, but to each other and to the relevant people who could make a difference in their lives. She was constantly thinking of new ways to make a project happen or help a community through introductions of friends or friends of friends or professional acquaintances or the propelling energy of communal gatherings like the Permanent Forum. She was sometimes frustrated at the lack of support for tribal links, since making connections and links naturally doesn't get noticed or provide tangible results for the person making the connections. And she dreamed of a time when more angels would understand the potential of the work that she and Tribal Link were doing and provide adequate support so that more of this multiplying work could be done. One notable thing about Pam was she was so sure of the rightness of her cause that she was able to get over some of the social norms that hold most of us back. For instance, she often used the term pest as a verb to pester someone until they finally did what she needed them to do. She wasn't always easy to work for or with, but I and many others, I suspect, understood she was only pesting us because she was providing numerous opportunities for us to realize what we knew we had to do and to follow through and do it. She was just the vehicle for us to understand our own destinies and to follow the path that we were born to do, despite the obstacles that everyday life and society throws in our way. Through that devotion to her cause, she naturally attracted others who held the same devotion. And frankly, if you didn't, you probably wouldn't last long. So, although it is so tragic to have lost her this suddenly, she has laid a solid foundation of people and projects for Tribal Link to continue forward. So, and you should all know this, especially the Indigenous people on the call, we on the team are dedicated and motivated to continue the work into the future. Pam may not have had her own children, but in a sense she did. All of the Indigenous people she came across and us at Tribal Link as well. As I think Ghazali and Damon, and I believe Ghazali's on the call. Yes, Ghazali. And Damon and perhaps others have observed, she was considered the fairy godmother, or during the call, Damon actually added living saint of the international Indigenous community. I think that says it all. So, while it would be difficult to work without her leadership, eventually the circle of life changes gears, and we need to assume leadership ourselves. Despite obvious adversity, our team has come together in a remarkable way in the past 6 weeks, with Roberto's leadership as interim executive director, and I have every reason to believe we will continue to do so, holding Pam in our hearts and her determination as our North Star. So no, we won't just try, we will make sure to continue forward in a good way. Thanks.
Beautiful, Andy.
Andy,
You really captured her essence.
Andy, I never thought I would miss her 10:30 at night calls for money. Okay. She was persistent to the extreme.
Yes, you would pest with the best of them.
Although, yeah, persistent. So thank you.
Yeah.
And
Some people on the call were saying, like even Roberto was saying he missed, the 5 or 10 calls a day, but I still am sort of enjoying not having the 10 calls a day, but eventually I'll probably miss it too.
I do have this video from the site, so let me put that up for all of you.
Thank you.
Great.
Hopefully there'll be some more to come, but let me make sure you have sound and we'll see if this works.
And there's a few other offerings. Following those offerings, we'll come back and we'll do that final planting. And then we'll tell you what to do right at the very end. But this way you have an idea so that we're all in one heart, one mind, one spirit, right? We're all coming together as family. That's what Pam wanted, right? She's a networker. She brought people together, lots of good people. So look around, look at the people who are here, think about Pam, and you know you're in a good space. She brought us all together. So there's nothing to fear. Nobody's trying to indoctrinate you into a religion. We're just doing something good for her. And I can imagine she's getting a chuckle out of that right now. So with that, I'm going to start to do this 4-direction call.
So I'll continue to share videos as John is able to get them to me. but a little taste. I know that some of the actual ceremonies were not going to be filmed, so that's why they may have ended the video there.
It's just absolutely great to have a sense of what the ceremony is and where it is.
Andy, I have a question for you.
Uh-huh.
Pam had this part of her pest aspect was such a reliance on, I don't know, like a deep inner intuition or a sensitivity that had to be awakened in order for her to go forward. Does anybody have that same kind of, inner life force that Pam depended on? Did she pass it on to someone? Do people know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I could sort of see what you're getting at. Actually, Diane relayed an interesting message that she sent in her last days, relayed by Anne, wasn't it, Diane? Yeah.
Yes.
And was basically saying something like that. At least that's what I got from it, about sort of being courageous and setting, higher goals, whether it's, fundraising goals or just, getting other people involved or whatever, just sort of, getting out of our comfort zone. I don't know if there's anybody who would pester like her. I think that's impossible, right, David? Yes. But there's certainly other, whether it's that method or not, I think there's people with lots of, determination and motivation and belief in the cause, that can also, rather than being a one-woman wrecking machine in some ways to get people to do stuff, probably just different methods, I think. Whether it's, for instance, we have Project Access, which, like I said, just had over 1,400 people sign up. So now we can point to that as, pretty definitive data that it's a successful program and that people should support it, So hopefully we won't need to do quite so much pesting, but yes, I see what you're saying.
But Andy, she was always so worried about money. You know that. That was her. 90% of her pestering was about money. And it was so sad that, so amazing that she could do so much with so little money too, which is shameful to so many agencies that do so little with so much money.
Right. Well,
yeah, and that's what she was saying. I talked to her within the week when she died, like a few days before she died. And that was her biggest concern, even more than her own health, was TribalLink. And she talked about starting a fund, which I know the board is really working hard to do that. But I'm just looking at her note and I can just read a little bit of it because some of it is a little private. But she said, okay, she didn't want this fund to be a GoFundMe type account. She said, allow yourself to dream big and allow the force. This isn't an order, it's a wish. It's a wish and wishes come true. There is magic. Rise above the level and stay clear. Allow yourself to dream big. You have all the power to make this happen. Wishes do come true. So she was talking about creating a fund. She mentioned $100,000 she was hoping to raise to support TribalLink to get to the next level. She wanted to integrate more Indigenous staff into TribalLink. So that was really definitely on her mind at the end. So yeah, I mean, she was so unselfish. She just was always thinking about TribalLink, and she felt like TribalLink got to a certain point where they were working with UNDP on Project Access, and she just wanted to see it continue to grow. And I think she kind of had a premonition that she was probably going to die soon. And she just really wanted it to be left in good hands, which it is. Blessing, because everybody's been so tremendous in bringing it to the next level in such a short period of time. So her wish and her dream is definitely coming true.
Yeah.
And she was very key that Roberto should be permanent. She mentioned that as well. She really saw him as leading TribeLink.
And of course, Andy, we spend so much time and money feeding Pam.
What, doing what, Pam?
We fed her a lot.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Say more, because she loved to eat, actually. It was very important where she ate, what she ate, and when she ate, and with whom.
Coffee shops, right?
And what she would take home.
That's right.
Her doggy bags were amazing.
But it was her way of bonding, right? She understood that, right? Coming together, breaking bread.
And,
So I'm going to jump in and say hello. Hi, Andy. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
I know Allison. I know Diane. I don't know the rest of you. But just on a more personal level, Pam and I got to know each other in Italy. We were bunked up as roommates in Assisi at the 2018 Spirituality and Sustainability Conference. And we practically shared a bed. What they called two beds was really one bed, two little beds pushed together in a tiny room. And I had been hearing about Pamela over the years at different UN conferences because my entry into the UN world was through Ewart Cousins. And Allison knew Ewart. He was a theologian. His expertise was in Meister Eckhart and other medieval theologians. And I'm tuning in from Washington, Connecticut, where I relocated during COVID. And Ewart lived in Washington, and I used to come up from New York City to visit Ewart. And Ewart and Allison back in 1975 organized the first spiritual summit at the UN. And it was Ewart that invited the Native Americans to come and be represented. And he had these wonderful stories about how he put the word out and chiefs from across the entire North America showed up in a bus saying, where are we going to stay? And they didn't have any money. And all of a sudden the funder came forward and put them up, I think, at the Waldorf. And they had a powwow in the lobby at the Waldorf. And then they all met up at St. John. But it just really meant a lot to finally get to know Pamela when my entry into the NGO world was because of Ewart and his work with the Lakota from the Pine Ridge Reservation. And, you know, Pam was just such a warm friend. She became like a second mom. And I discovered she and my mom have the same birthday, the exact same birthday, October 31st, 1943. And my mom's coming out to visit. And Pam she was such a good support. She was a good friend. And she had this deep wisdom. And we did start meeting for dinner. She liked to pick restaurants, and very nice restaurants. She's a foodie. And we found a few spots, and we were regularly meeting up for dinner over the last couple years. And it was the kind of thing where you would just look into her eyes over the dinner table, and she had this deep wisdom, and she would pause, and then just like her responses were just spot on. And like everyone else, you know, I was looking forward to seeing her now that COVID is ending. And I called Diane and said, have you heard from Pam? You know, like, I want to meet up with her for dinner soon. Let's all meet up. And it just really came as a surprise that her soul has crossed over. And Pam and I shared a love for Tibet. I traveled to Tibet, and she helped bring the Tibet cause to the UN system, I believe. She brought a Tibetan musician. I can't remember the names. I think it was Nawang Kechang. Diane probably remembers. But we had that overlapping love for Tibetan culture and Native American culture And then we just became good friends. And today marks the 49th day of her journey through the Tibetan Bardo. So I think it's really special that because of the rain date, things got postponed and we're all coming together on this day, which in Tibetan Buddhism, your soul either becomes one with the Buddha land and you don't ever have to be reborn, or you come back if you've taken if you've taken refuge in Tibetan Buddhism, you agree to come back until all sentient beings are enlightened. So it's really nice to have everyone here, knowing that we loved Pam so much. I have moments, I'm out in nature where I just talk to her and I see her hand saying, sort of explaining to me, you know I died. It's probably my own imagination, or just like, how would Pam and I discuss the fact that she's not here in form anymore? But I know we're all going to remember her and really miss her. I think we've all shed some tears, just missing having dinner with Pam, missing her friendship. And, it's been really nice to share memories together with Diane, because we're friends. We got to know each other in Assisi too. And I know Pam talked a lot about Nina and all the work Nina has done with the Cousteau Foundation and carrying on the work. But it's just nice that everyone's coming together. So I thought I would just share a few personal words. And I hope that Tribal Link continues in some shape and form, and that there can be funds raised. And I know Diane's continuing with her work with Source of Synergy and trying to continue voicing Indigenous issues, and Allison too with Temple of Understanding. So just say we love Pam. We probably would like a nice gust of wind or burst of sun or rainbow today. Maybe we'll get one. Her letting us know that she's in the Buddha lands, or she's coming back for as many lifetimes as it takes for all the Indigenous peoples to be, free and just in this world. So, okay, thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you. And that was Elizabeth? Is that
My
your name?
first name is, Elizabeth Ashley, and it comes up under my work Zoom account. I spend half my life on Zoom these days because of remote work. Yes, but I'm Elizabeth Ashley, yes.
Okay. Thank you. That was really nice. I knew she made these connections when she went traveling, but I don't know the details until you hear it. So, yeah. And if anybody else has any thoughts, you're welcome. I don't know how long this can go on, Mark, but if anybody else has thoughts, we're happy to talk about her or Tribal Link or anything.
Yeah, and I don't know if we'll hear from the site again, but we can certainly stay around for another 30 or 20 minutes or something like that if people want to. Really appreciate all of your personal insights into Pam. I think there's never been a more complex person. Each of us has our own connections to her, and there probably isn't a person I know of who could make you feel so heard and listened to on such a personal level. And I think that was one of her great gifts. And the other thing that struck me when I was listening to the video was what she said. I think it was during one of the jazz concerts there, or the interim, where she just said that as far as doing things, she wasn't hindered by whether something could be done. Those questions didn't enter her mind. The question is whether it was the right thing to do and whether it would create something good. And I think that's something that all of us can hold on to as a little bit of Pam, because that way of creating it connects you to something deeper, to a kind of wisdom that you don't need to be the one to know how to do what needs to be done. And that's really how Pam lived her life. And just really appreciate all of you. It's clear how much a person can affect the world. And I think all of us need to hear that and think about that for ourselves. And I will certainly miss her, but I also feel like she's there in so many ways in my life and continues to be. For those of you who don't know me, I was in a group with Pam, with Gil for many years. And I remember when Pam gave me keys to her loft so that I could facilitate meetings there, and such an open and generous soul. And I would drive her home many nights from our meetings and just really miss her and love her. I'm thrilled to be able to be here with all of you as well. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Maybe I'll just say a few words. This is Nina. For some of you who may not know me, I met Pam in 2005 at a UN event. I had just started working with the UN, and she was a close friend and partner to that program. And then we met there and then became close after I came back from Brazil just a few months later. And I had a very deep experience with Indigenous peoples there. And when I came back and I told her that I had been there, she said, "Oh, I was supposed to go to this meeting, but I couldn't go, but you went and you had this experience. So the baton's been passed on to you." This was back in 2006 when she said that. Didn't know what she meant. And I started working with her. I really fell in love with the cause of Indigenous peoples. They reminded me of my great-grandmother from Bulgaria. I grew up in Bulgaria, and my great-grandmother was the healer in our village. And so I encountered that same energy with Indigenous peoples in Brazil. And Pam taught me a lot. She taught me everything I experienced and I knew to be an ally, how to be an ally to Indigenous peoples. And she really helped me trust my own mind, which I had missed that part growing up under, an oppressive communist regime. But she was just completely patient, and she believed in my mind, something I couldn't quite see. And so that was wonderful. But I wanted to say, yesterday, I'm in LA. I was hoping to be able to be at the ceremony today. So I'm really sad that I can't be there. But we are here, and yesterday we went to the desert, and it was just the driest place, and this incredible rainbow appeared all of a sudden. I was just talking to Andy, actually. Andy had asked me to send him a file of the video that we just showed right now, that Mark just showed, and I just opened it right there. I had not that much service, and I sent it to him right away. And then just a few minutes later, this incredible, I have never seen a rainbow in the desert, in the driest place I've ever been. And so when, I actually just mentioned rainbows, and I really was like, Pam, that was my first thought immediately. I'm just getting chills talking about it now. And I've also felt that the wind is a way that she's speaking to me as well, because it was a very, very strong wind when she passed away, the day she passed away. An exceptionally strong wind in New York City, which I had not experienced. So I felt that would be a way in which she's also communicating. But it's beautiful to be here with you, all of you long-time beloved friends of Pam's, and we all hold a different part of the enormity and the unknown mystery that she was. So it's just beautiful to be here with you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Nina. You've been in my kind of mind for so many years because Pam always spoke about you, and really lovely to, I was thinking maybe she's finally achieved through her passing, being in that, completely in that state of mind where she can speak to us wind and rainbows. Maybe this is how she will continue to infiltrate us. I was thinking about the word data, that, Tribal Links has to have both magic and data.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's beside the point of working for the voice of Indigenous people.
I'll share on a similar note with Nina, and Diane already knows this. When I got the news about Pam, it was from Ann Hughes, and all of a sudden the sky went dark, and out of nowhere there was a huge wind and a hail snowstorm just flurried up out of nowhere in a matter of minutes as I got the news, as the tears came, because I didn't expect this. And then there was a giant hawk in the front, nature right in front of me as I'm talking, saying to my partner, go get the camera. But there was all this flurry of weather phenomenon. And I am a believer in after-death communication, and I can't figure out the mystery of how did it happen, but the timing was just spot on. As I got the news and the snow, in a matter of minutes, it was all gone, like it never even happened. But I love that the rainbow appeared yesterday, because she's in that window of that bardo crossing over the 49 days. And, you work so closely with her for so many years, but it's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I'm getting chills too.
And I want to say, Laura, as well, I've written, I've sent mail to you, through the years, and I've known you through Pam as well. And I loved your story and the way that you expressed yourself when we had the communication with her a week before her passing, when we were all on Zoom. And I just really loved your sharing then. And many of you, Carol Duggar as well, and Judith, Alliston, of course, I know you in person. But some of you who I haven't met before, I've known you through the years because you're very close friends and supporters of Pam. So it's lovely to see you now. And of course, Mark. Yes. And Paul Adam, who is on the board of Tribal Link. Hello, Paul.
Yeah. I just remember I knew Pam, at Max's in the 70s. And we sort of drifted in and out of each other's lives at various points. And she was just, all of a sudden, at some point, we had a call. I hadn't seen her in 10 years, and she was going up to Monhegan. And Marcia and I ended up going up and spending a week with her and Paul Mayer, and Jim was there for a little while. And she was just a master at making connections. At some point after that, she started talking about Tribal Link, and she said, well, I want you to sort of help out with this. And she had that wonderful gift of getting people, she'd ask people to help. She'd say, I need your help with this. And you couldn't sort of refuse. And she was just great that way, instead of just saying to people, this is what I need you to do. She'd just say, I need some help with this. And then she'd make 6 calls and you'd sort of contribute what you could. And then she'd, do the next thing. And she was just great at doing that. So she'll be missed. She was really a wonderful person. So.
Paul, do you have any memories of Pam at Max's? She loved to talk about
she was just pure energy. She was just pure energy. I mean, it was always a sort of frenetic place, and there were a lot of artists of all different stripes, and it was a community, sort of based around Mickey Ruskin, but there were Larry Poons and John Chamberlain, all the people that were there, some wonderful, wonderful people. And she was just sort of in the middle of that all the time. And she was just a really important part of that whole world. So, and I know I got there and I was the weekday night cashier. And she was just among people. It was just a whole new world, and she just made you comfortable there. She was part of that,
Was she a waitress there? Because I remember her talking.
She was a waitress there. She was a waitress there. But the waitresses there, the thing I remember about Max is after I'd been there for a little while, and I wasn't there for a very long time, but there was a woman who came as a new waitress. And she said to me at some point, because everybody would sort of bring slips and everything and money to me and credit card stuff. And she, this new waitress came up to me and said, everybody keeps asking me, what do you do? And I keep saying I'm a waitress. And she said, what does that mean? And I said, well, everybody here sort of does art, or they do painting, or they do music or something else. This is just sort of a bread and butter job for people who are doing other things. And she said, oh, and the wonderful thing was about 3 weeks later, she said, I got some paints. I'm going to start painting. And that was what Max's was. It was that kind of world where people sort of got included. And, she was really a great, great person, Pamela. She could just get you invested in stuff that you might not even be interested in. And she just sort of bring you along. So she'll be missed. So.
And I'll tag on that. Her stories about Max's, the restaurant, and Diana shared more about it, but I don't know if all of you knew that she was also the personal assistant to John Lennon.
Yes.
And that she used to help John come out of his, I don't know how you would call him.
Euphoria.
Let's just say he's coming down from LSD. We all know John Lennon took a lot of LSD, and that Pam was his personal assistant and helped paint his apartment and was sort of the everyday go-to. And I was just astounded that she knew him on that level and was in his home frequently. So I just thought I would share that if all of you didn't already know that about Pam.
And that's why she painted his apartment with her friend, because he didn't really trust other people to come in. So he trusted Pam and her friend. And she said she would even make him always Thomas's English muffins. I forget what he wanted every day, but he always wanted the same thing. And him and Yoko were pretty much in bed, she said, the whole time. They hardly left their bed. But she has great stories, even Andy Warhol. She met so many interesting people in her time.
I don't know. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would love to have known Pam in the 1970s.
Well, I was going to.
I was in New York, but I had not yet met her. But I could. That's just fantastic to imagine.
So Robert Watts, who she was the muse to Robert Watts, one of the Fluxus artists. I don't know if you saw that on Instagram. They actually did a tribute to her. I don't know if you guys saw it.
No.
Can I share it here, the
yes,
link?
Please.
I'm going to share the link because you can see Pam in the 60s.
Oh,
If you just scroll down to just 1 or 2 lines down, you'll see some incredible images.
Yeah, it's crazy. I never really knew that very much about. I knew that Sarah, her neighbor Sarah, I assume who you're talking about, Diane, was friends with John.
I think, I think that was,
still friends with Yoko, I think. And but she mostly just talked about Sarah being friends with them, and I think she maybe mentioned a few times about sort of meeting John or something, or I think she said about painting maybe. But I never really knew that it was on the level of personal assistant. Like, it's funny that she never mentioned that.
Yeah, she told me that a few times. Is this her, the third line down and the second line down? Which one is Pam?
The second line down in the middle with the beautiful fluffy scarf, and then the next row is all her.
Oh my gosh, look at her. Wow.
But I recognize your fingernails.
Right?
Yeah.
Why can't I see that?
Wow.
Here, I can share with you all.
Yeah, share
for
the
those of you
screen.
who don't have it.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, Mark, maybe you can share your screen.
There she is. Can you see that?
Oh my God.
Look how beautiful. Wow.
I'm so happy you shared this. I had no idea.
Oh, great, yeah.
With the feather boa?
Yes.
Yeah, 1966, Pamela Kraft.
Yeah, opening at Bianchini Gallery, New York City, wearing portrait dress by Robert Watts.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And look at her the next line down.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yes, this is Pam.
Wow.
Yep. Yep.
It's amazing how her
Amazing.
hands look the same, right? Her nails.
Absolutely. And the other two photos, if you click, the middle, that's her as well.
Wow.
Fantastic.
And the middle photo of her hand, that's her hand also right here. Yeah, you can recognize it.
Yeah.
The fingernails.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh.
Fantastic.
Beautiful.
She gave that up to devote herself to Indigenous people,
Yeah.
to be out of that particular spotlight.
Exactly. The chest there. This is a catalog of Pam's moles. This is and birthmarks. This is an artwork that the artist Robert Watts did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, maybe Tribal Links is an extension of working at Max's, like getting further into the source of art.
It was it's an art piece for sure.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
everything she did, she made choices, like they were brush strokes. They weren't ordinary decisions. And it could drive you mad sometimes, but yet that was the way it had to happen. I felt like I was in training sometimes.
Yeah. Well, just her mailings. When she'd do her annual mailings, they were always every stamp, everything. Andy probably had a lot to do with that, but they were very perfectly done. They were, it didn't matter when they arrived. It was just when they went out, they had to be absolutely perfect, and they always were.
Yeah. And like Andy said with her notepad, how she would always make designs in geometric shapes and everything. I mean, that was her art too. Her thinking was always in an art form as well.
Yep.
Yeah, it just reminds me about how many Sundays or holidays Pam would call and she would say, do you want to have lunch at a certain time? And so I would change everything and say yes. And then I would call her back and she said, well, let me call you back. And then it would be at some other time or another day even. And but I'd say, what are you doing? And she said, well, I had this sense of her just going through things, like with a comb, going through pages and things that she'd written or things that were coming her way, looking for the clues, like sacred clues to what to do next. And once I went up there to meet her, and it must have, I don't know, Nina, you would be there were like thousands of small yellow stickets. Kind of, I don't know, like one of those puzzles that spills out that eventually, is a Picasso or a picture of a skyscraper or a bird, but it was just thousands of pieces of yellow stickets that it was this process, this incredible process that I've thought about a lot in times of despair or being stuck. I would think of Pam and this, very strange but completely inimical process of hers.
I remember the first time I came to New York, 9/11, and she had these photographs that I think she'd purchased them from somebody on the street. I'm not positive how she acquired them, but she took these, and we talked about them, and there were people falling, and she said they're like birds, which took the frightfulness away from the image completely. I think about it all the time. I think about it so often that she saw these people in flight.
Well, that's so interesting because you know how she first started Tribal Link was that she was at the Rio Earth Summit and she actually imagined or saw herself becoming a bird during one of the ceremonies and flying to the Yanomami land in Brazil in the Amazon. So she always had this fascination with flying and birds. And I felt like she came to me right after I heard that she passed away. And this little moth kept trying to come in by my window. It was like so persistent after I was crying. And I knew that was her. And then Ashley mentioned that she was thinking, how would Pam come? She didn't know this happened. How would Pam come if she came in the form of an animal? And she said, probably a white moth. And I was thinking the same, like a bird or a white moth, because it was a white bird that she saw herself as. And then in Carlos Castaneda's teaching, was Pam loved. I mean, she talks so much about his book. He talked about the white moth and the teachings of the moth. So I believe that was her.
Well, and when Pamela first shared with me that she used to teach a course on Carlos Castaneda, she started by telling this story about a white moth. And it was such an involved story that I can't tell you what all was involved. But the next morning, another friend of mine who's an older guide into Indigenous ceremony texted me a photo of this giant white moth that appeared on her door. And I said, you wouldn't believe it. I was with my friend Pamela, who's also connected to Indigenous people. And she was telling me all about this white moth, how, you know, it was across friendships and coincidence. And was it at the Johannesburg 92 Earth Summit that she had that vision of the bird leading up to Rio in 2012? Because I know
she had the vision earlier, the first Rio Earth Summit. That's where but it wasn't 92, right? Wasn't it?
But I think, wasn't that the Johannesburg one in 92?
No, Rio was
later.
92, Johannesburg was 2002.
Yeah,
well,
I was with her in
correcting me,
Johannesburg, yeah.
Because I was trying to put context of the 2012 Rio Summit, and what I didn't realize there was another Rio Summit. So there was Rio, Johannesburg, and then Rio again.
Rio 2012 was called Rio Plus 20.
Oh, thank you for helping me to understand that, because I was like, what? Because she had talked about Johannesburg.
Yeah, we did the Sacred Place there. That was 10 years after Rio, right? The first Rio. So it was the first Rio that she had that experience. In the karaoke, sort of, I guess it was the tent that Indigenous peoples had. And that's when she had the experience of flying.
Yeah. Also, in terms of the bird connection, I remember there was some, like maybe a small book or something about the legend of the bird tribes. I don't know if anybody heard of that, and I remember I had read that and been struck by it, and Pam had mentioned it, and you know, knowing her, she was probably transmitting something from the spirit world of the bird tribes or something. And in fact, I think she has some really interesting writing somewhere that hopefully Jim can find. But anyway, the point I remember being struck by is that it was something like the people of the bird tribes were people sort of otherworldly spirit race or whatever of people, but could just see that the earth needed help as they looked down on earth, so that they basically gave up their position in the tribe or being that in that form and came down to earth to sort of help out with what's going on with the crisis that's happening now, and might forget why they're here, but they might also always have this feeling of where they came from. So I think a lot of us who have this sort of, we're drawn to this kind of work, sort of, wonder if maybe that's where we came from, I guess. So anyway, it'd be interesting to look back at that again. But anyway, she seemed to be very connected to that, that imagery, and I think, like I said, also has some transmissions of that. So just want to add that.
Also, she did a lot. I don't think she would mind me sharing this, but I know a lot of our work was doing like going into trance piece together. Like that was her specialty, really. So we would kind of sit and she would actually ask me to ask her questions and we both kind of go in a meditative state. And then even her voice would change. It was amazing. Like, Nina, have you done this with her? And she would just like come up with these brilliant, images and what needed to happen. And even with Project Access, we used to do trance pieces about that, to bring that into form and, what would the name be? And, all this kind of came out of this other space that she was so connected to. And she used that all the time, through different aspects of her work. I felt like she was really connected. And I think she shape-shifted. That's what she was when she was the bird. I really think she turned into this bird. I think it was beyond her imagination. It really happened. I think she had the capacity to do so many things that she didn't talk about so much. But that's why her life, I think, was just so infused with magic. She was just incredible.
I did put up in the chat just a link to what it is on Wikipedia, but the Conference of Birds is what I think it's a Persian story, which Andy was referencing. But I know that Pam did have a white bird transmission, which I do know that we will probably, I don't have access to it immediately, but I'm sure that will be released at some point as well. I do have a poem here that I thought I would read that's by Pam. It's called Existence. And it says, I am the ancient woman. I see like a hawk. I wait for men on the side of the road. I stalk the unknown. I dance in eternity. I can find my way in the great chaos. I am formless, and I take form because of your burning desire to see me. The ancient man never forgets my existence and shudders at the thought of my return. For with me, all consciousness ceases, and all that exists is the dance of the void. Existence.
That's exceptional.
Is it possible to put that in the chat?
That's it.
It's not letting me cut and paste it, but I will find a way.
Maybe you could just email it to us. So
email it.
Goeiedag, nummertje 10, alsjeblieft. Alsjeblieft.
You hear the bird?
Bird. Yeah. That must be Pam, right?
Or at least the bird's saying, it's okay. She's with us. We're all right.
Mm-hmm.
Nee, dank je.
Thank you.
Professional. Doei.
I have one other short poem that I'll read. It says, this is written by that which sees from the beginning. I am an animal. I am the woman as an animal, as stalker. I have seldom dared to appear in my truer forms. I wish to do that now, and I wish to do that with you. And then I look down from my mountain and see you in life. And with my thinking mind, I cannot understand how can we walk in this paradise. I will take you to Egypt in the life or in death. I will no longer abandon you. I will breathe with you from this point forward. I will stand at whatever distance you wish. I am the keeper, the shadow, the keeper of the dream, the keeper of the eternal flame. I have learned the art of transmutation, and I offer you my friendship. Your encounter with death must have freed me from my casing. I had died, and hearing of your pending exit, I feel that I must awaken. Or was I in a deep sleep?
Powerful.
When did she write these poems?
Don't have dates on them. Many of them are from the 80s. They don't have dates, but some of them do from the 80s. So I believe they were sent to me by a friend.
So is Jim going to try to publish some of her work? I know she always wanted her book to be.
There are talks about how we would do that, and there's a lot of work out there. So, and if any of you have them, please do let us know, because I know things get lost in the papers that we have and we keep. I also have one other thing from the site. It's very, very short. It's only about 10 seconds, but I will play it for you.
Thank you.
Not very much to share, but just to give you a little flavor that there is this going on without us as well.
Are her ashes at the roots of the tree?
My understanding is that, yes, they're going to be putting her ashes with the tree.
Was this from the territory right now?
Yeah, John sent it to me a moment ago.
It's very wonderful that we've been here together like this. And that you're recording it, aren't you, Mark?
Mm-hmm. I am. I think all of you have said things that are wonderful and magical and surprising, which is what Pam really is. She is so many things to so many people. I think if anyone has any last words, we could maybe stay around for a little bit longer, but I just wanted to thank you all. It's just really a testament to how we can affect each other. Mm-hmm. And as I said, she's such a force and one that will be missed, but I do think that there is something in the invisible world that if Pam, of all people, who lives so much in that invisible world, is there with us and can be. So I appreciate all of this and thank you.
I just had one more thought about, since we're on the topic of her sort of otherworldly qualities. I don't know if you guys heard about her experiences in Egypt, but, and I'm trying to remember the exact story, but it was something about her having a, sort of being on a tour in one of the pyramids. Does anybody sound familiar? Okay. And for some reason, all of a sudden, she found herself alone in one part of the pyramid, like somehow in some magic way, everybody just sort of disappeared, or maybe they just took a left turn and she took a right or something. And all of a sudden she was there and heard this voice and started conversing with some kind of spirit in the tomb. And basically after that, she was wondering if she might be a descendant, like a few lives after King Tut, but basically she was King Tut in a previous life. So, yeah, so she'd been reincarnated a few times and wound up as Pam Kraft, or he had.
She wrote, Diane, didn't she write extensively about that journey in Egypt? I remember that was a big topic in our story sessions outside the coffee shop on 17th Street with that incident.
Yeah, it left a big impression on her. And even there was there some mark or something she had that correlated with King Tut? I remember her saying that, like some mark maybe.
So vague,
Yeah, I can't remember exactly, but yeah, I remember her telling that story as well, Andy.
Yeah, she was all of a sudden speaking an ancient Egyptian language that she never knew she knew.
Real?
So, something like that.
Van mijn mommy.
I don't know. It was one of these otherworldly things. And then she
Stampot.
rejoined the group.
En pannenkoek. En pannenkoek.
I do know that.
Definitely was able to tap into the field, right?
Yeah. I do know that Pam had done several channeling writings and automatic writings, which evolved around Egypt.
Yeah, her handwriting would change.
Je moet zo meteen naar huis en dan ten eten.
Is that Ghazali on the phone? On the call?
Yeah, Ghazali, yeah, and we can hear you, Ghazali. Okay, he muted himself. Anyway, I love to hear Ghazali speaking Dutch, I believe.
Well, it must be, what, 3 a.m.? No, it's only 9 p.m.
9 o'clock. I'm in the Netherlands too. It's 9
Yeah, okay.
It's about 10 p.m., yeah. 10 p.m. there.
Oh, shit.
9, yeah.
9, okay, yeah.
I just wanted to say thank you all for hosting this. My name is Janine. I met Pam through Project Access, like so many of my brothers and sisters. And it's just been so wild listening to these beautiful stories and seeing the photos, and it all makes perfect sense to me that she spent a lifetime being magical and doing incredible things. But when I met her and knew her, it wasn't very long after I lost my last grandmother. And that's who she was to me as a spirit and as a person, was just someone that reminded me dearly of the same type of grace and wisdom and compassion and deep, deep love that my grandmother had. So I adopted her as my little grandma. Our fairy godmother is how we all refer to her. But I wanted to share that recently, I've really come into this understanding, particularly in how we pray to open up space and to honor all the things that we're fighting for in very difficult situations and very difficult rooms that are sometimes very toxic, that when Indigenous peoples come together, and call our ancestors to those spaces, we're not only connecting here in this life, but we're also connecting and making and building relationships among our ancestors that go back generations. And this is how we shift. This is how we change power and how we fuel the evolution of our collective consciousness. And I was just thinking about how critical and deep and profound Pam's role has been in that, and bringing together so many of us from so many different places who would have otherwise probably not have met and built relationships. And in doing so, didn't just connect us and create relationships that will last a lifetime, but she also connected our ancestors. And so when I heard of her passing, that was immediately what I knew and what I felt. And I went outside and prayed, and I introduced her to my grandparents, and I talked to her a little bit about how excited I am that she's going to see the woman that has shaped so much of me, and my grandmother's going to meet a woman that has shaped so much of my future, and how blessed we are that we have her and taking a place among the stars, among our ancestors, to resource our movement for generations to come. And so, it's been really hard losing people in the midst of all this and not being able to be there to say our goodbyes and to honor all that they stood for. So I really appreciate the space and really wanted to share that with you all, and to thank you all for being a part of her life, for loving her, for keeping her with us for so long, for keeping her stories and her energy alive, And I know that together we're going to continue to do that into the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Janine.
Thanks, Janine. Good to see you, or see your photo. Hear you.
Where are you, Janine?
I'm in Gallup, New Mexico, trying to pack up and get ready to head to Tucson, Arizona. So that's why I'm joining from my phone and moving around. That's why I didn't have my camera on.
Beautiful, Janine. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
I would like to say thank you to all of you. I'm Sinje and I'm from Germany and I have nothing to do with Tribal Link and I'm coming from a different planet in terms of I'm not linked with Tribal Link in that way, but I'm very close linked to Pamela and it was a really tough situation to me because I met her. First of all, I met Jim. And then I met Pam, and they enabled me to do really wonderful, important work together and my artwork. And I was in New York a couple of times, and the last time I was there in 2015, and she was calling me and saying I should come to the loft and see it again, and everything is so beautiful. And I said, oh, Pam, no, it's too crazy. And so I went there. And I stayed for 1 week and I did a work with, it was concerning the Twin Towers. I mean, all my work has to do with questions about values, society, nature, and the question of reality. And it's, to me now, it's so wonderful because it's like a missing link to see your faces, to participate and to be there. Because I was talking to Jim and I said, no, I can't join this Sumi something website. It's not my way to say goodbye to Pam.
I'm sitting in one of my American, I forgot which account, and because I have a bunch of immigrant savings accounts.
She has the phone. So in that term, it's wonderful to have this missing links between all of you and Pam and Jim and Sean, which I knew, and have the opportunity to say goodbye in that way too. And thank you to Pamela, first of all. It was an incredible time with her. And I remember all these hundreds of details when she was in Germany visiting me and I was visiting her. And it's hard to me to express it in a language which is not my common one. So I just want to say thank you to you that I could join this goodbye to her, and with all my love and best wishes to you, and especially to Tribal Link, that you can continue with your work. It's a really wonderful thing. And I would love to join more of you and get in touch to continue Pamela's energy in that term too. But I don't know if we ever met or will meet in person. So all the best to you too.
Well, I saw your name a lot, so I'm glad to put a face to it.
Maybe
thanks for all your words.
I've done with the photographs of the loft, because I sent it to her, and that then she told me that a lot of friends have seen it. So I have no idea. Maybe by any chance you saw it, and it was
photograph of what?
Look that
I photographed the loft. So when I see the feathers in the background of you, Mark, it's so touching, because I think, are you in Pam's loft now?
This is a picture from Pam's loft from a book that was done.
So I was totally confused because
the loft has gone away. It is now a big tall building.
But no, I know. That's the reason I did photograph it. I thought, because she was moving to.
Is this your photograph?
Yes. This is
thank you for connecting.
So I was just wondering if there is a real piece now hanging in Jim's place, or I couldn't figure it out where you are. So maybe that was so confused that it looks so familiar to me.
It's your picture. It's however reversed, because this meter was on the other side. It's for some reason it's a mirror image, but that book was beautiful, and thank you so much. I know Pam absolutely loved that, and
Oh, that's nice. That's good to hear. It's beautiful. Yeah, I didn't know that it's a kind of a goodbye present. I didn't mean it that way. It's just, of course, it was a goodbye to her loft in Chelsea, but I didn't expect it that it's goodbye to her in person. And it's so crazy because every time I talked to someone in New York, it was her or Jim, and now it's you in a transferred way. So thank you.
Could we get a copy of that book? Is there a way we can buy it online or of the loft?
I think Pam has a whole bunch of it. I don't know where she stored it. And I have 5 copies in my place left. I just made a little thing, but the other thing is I could, I don't know. It's a good question. I can send it to you one, of course, but I don't know if it's too, I don't know how the shipping is more, well, I don't know. If Mark has my email and Jim, just send me an email and I check it. Maybe I can reprint it or whatever. It's no question.
Yeah, I'm happy to pay whatever.
Yeah, it's mail at, I don't know if you can see my name.
Yes.
It's mail at, and then Sinje minus, and then dylancover.de.
I wanted to thank you because Pam talked about you and the book, and she wanted to show it to everyone, and she really had it as this incredible, which it was a work of art. I saw it very well. Oh, there, Mark is holding it up, so thank you.
Yeah. That's nice. Yeah.
Thank you. Great to see you now.
That's really wonderful. I didn't know that.
I never saw that either.
Mark, can you hold that up again, please? Oh,
wow.
What a great thing to do.
Wow.
Yep.
Oh, my.
She loved her loft.
Amazing book.
It was her windows. Yeah. And I think every window was a window to somewhere else. It was much more than just a window to the street.
Mm.
The picture that's was behind me.
Oh, yes.
When I would sit at Pam's, this was always my view, which is why I chose this one.
That's interesting.
The ceiling. It's a beautifully put together book, and I do know we'll check and see if there are copies that Jim has.
Yeah, otherwise let me know.
And we will find out.
Yeah, just no question.
Maybe we could pay for these copies and the funds could help support Tribal Link.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a good reminder, and I'm glad to look into it all for you. But
Thank you.
You did such a beautiful job. I think they're backwards.
It's so crazy. If you could imagine the whole story, how it came up to it, I can't explain it here. It's so personal, but it was, in a way, it was like a love declaration. But on the other side, it was so touching because I was first with Pam in the 80s. And when I arrived, the whole situation was so crazy. And now I had the same thing again in 2015. So it was so fascinating. The whole thing was like a stage. It was like a theater. So I started photographing between the boxes, the literature, the yellow stickers. And it was like a time journey, or how do you say it? A journey through times. And the last page, I think, is with Jim and John. We were so exhausted hanging up. It was the night before I was flying backward. Oh yeah, that's I like very much with the chimney and the angels. That was a really crazy combination.
Is this you?
Oh yes, that was when I left, because I loved this plant area, and I was standing in front of the window, and it's me in the window with the flowers, just saying goodbye. And yeah, that's the one.
Marvelous.
And it was so hot. It was in that week. Every day it got more and more hotter and warmer. We were really boiled. So we were, and it was amazing because actually I was coming to photograph, how do you say, the whole the negative space of the Twin Towers, because I'm working on, I mean, if you ever, yeah, right, that's a wonderful picture of her.
Oh my goodness, wow.
Yeah, and I ended up, instead of only photographing what I intended to photograph, I did photograph on the ground floor in the Memorial Museum of the Twin Towers. They have these square lines. And I was so shocked about the whole atmosphere that I started to protect myself and started photographing. And then I came back to Germany. And the first thing I did, I created the book. And I left the photograph aside. And a year later, I unpacked these photographs. And it ended up with an installation by 8 by 5 meters height in a museum, which is named The Placeholders. And it's a shame I can't show it to you, but it's so incredible how things happen, get transferred and appear in a new setup, in a new object as art or with people. I don't know. It's so all these things. So New York is always connected to with Pam for me, and Jim, of course. I mean, it's, maybe she's would be nice if she can see us and join us.
What were you asking to be seen, to be shown? Sometimes my hearing's bad, so.
Say it again.
I also thought, I don't know if you can see this, but it says become a life actor.
Yes.
From note to herself. And that seems one of the things that Pam was good at doing, was acting in life. Making things happen.
In my mind when you were talking about her poetry, I'm very, very, very interested, because I thought when you just talked about it, to get some of them and maybe to combine it with the book, to extend the book and just to go on in a further step. I think it would be, I would love to do it. And even I thought about, because we had so many discussions and fun arrangements in our conversation, and I would love to put that into it and just to create something. I don't know where it goes to, but it maybe, I don't know who has the poetries. Where is it now? Is it with Jim, or is it, I mean, she had all these.
Jim has some. These were sent to me by Derek, who's a member of the group, and I think he would meet with Pam regularly, and she had shared some of her poetry. I know I took a project for a year of taking papers of hers and scanning them. And that's where a lot of the transmissions, like the Whitebird transmission is. So they do exist. And I think your idea is brilliant and should be explored further. So we'll try and combine and find out what we have and see how to best present it.
I think this is what Pam wanted. Actually, she often talked about how she could put the stories and poems together. And I think with the visuals allows the depth and the magic of it to coexist.
I agree.
Yeah, beautiful.
Maybe, I don't know, could you help me to get a kind of an email list of you, and then maybe we can exchange and maybe you have the ones you have scanned already. That means you have the original writing, which is even more beautiful, because whenever I see the writing, I see her fingers and nails and her gesture. It's something so specific, and to combine it, and maybe I can think about it a bit and make a proposal, whatever might come up.
I'll reach out to you and we'll collaborate a little bit on sharing some of this, because I know Jim has a lot that he wants shared too. So yeah, absolutely. Well, I have your email now, so I'll make sure to reach out to you.
Thank you.
And wonderful to be able to meet you in this, because I've admired your book for so long. So
that's
thank
great.
you so much.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Oh my God. I didn't even want to talk, because I said, oh God, I don't talk. I don't know nothing.
Uh-huh.
So I'm glad I did.
Glad you did too.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to jump in here for a second. Allison.
Please do.
I have learned so much about Pam. It's amazing. Pam and I were sort of co-creators of organizations, and our conversations were all about the magic and how do you know when you've got the magic going for you or when it isn't going for you, and all of those, wonderful experiences we all have trying to run organizations. But one of the things that always amazed me about Pam was that she was able to manifest all of these different levels and areas of consciousness, not just in terms of Indigenous people, but just on an everyday level, kind of, moving. Oh, sorry, I'll turn that up. On an everyday level, in other words, I was called her sort of the practical mystic because her mysticism was always present. And we talked a lot about contacting the other side. I'm a spiritualist, so that was sort of part of my religion. But she was able to really bring it down into this practical level that is hard to do, very hard to do. So this has just been really fun and enlightening, and I wanted to thank you all.
Have you contacted Pamela on the other side, Allison?
I don't exactly do it that way. It's part of my tradition. I have spiritualist ministers are all mediums and psychics. But I did have a very strange experience. 2 weeks, I think, I've had a bluebird, and bluebirds are still quite rare where I live, but I've had a bluebird pecking on my window, like constantly, like trying to get into the house. And I've had other birds do this, but I've never had a bluebird. I mean, bluebirds are very rare. They're very special here and very unique. And so I kept saying to myself, well, it might be her. It could be her. And then I've been talking to the bluebird saying, you really don't need to keep knocking at my window. I think, it's okay. It's okay. Because, you sort of worry about them getting a headache or something. But I think there's so many ways in which Pam really helped us all, guided us all, and, taught us a lot of wonderful things. So thank you.
Thank you.
Where are you, Allison?
Thanks.
Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts. Way out on an island.
What was the term you used for Pamela, the practical
mystic? She had this mystical aspect to her, of course, that you all know about, but we talked about it a lot at John's, having lunch all the time. Pam was in the same office that I was in for quite a few years, but I've known her for many, many years before that. And so we had lots of opportunities to go out and have Greek food, which is basically what she liked the most. And we talked a lot about, well, I don't know how to explain it, except it's just it's a mystical expression that comes down into a practical form. So she was always envisioning these things that could happen. And we talked about this program or that program. And then the whole thing was, how do you ground that mystical, dream, let's say, and bring it into a practical area. It's a very important thing to learn how to do. So we were sort of teaching each other, I think, going back and forth with that. And I was always encouraging her more and more, to, and I think Tribal Links is very important. So I was always encouraging her to just, don't worry about the money. The money happens. But first you get the image, you get the dream, you get the kind of, where you're going with this, and you start developing it. I mean, a lot of what Diane was talking about was what our conversations were about. But there's so many aspects of Pam that I knew nothing about. So it was fun to hear you, Ashley, too, and Diane and all of you, learning about the early days of this beautiful, amazing woman. Wow. So many things.
And I love this image of a bluebird coming to your window. because Pam was so committed to working from the office. And she worked long hours, and I was kind of sworn to secrecy because she was off the grid at her office at the UN Church Center. That she was so connected to working from that space, long hours.
Well, I don't know if I did her any favors, but I did insist that she come into the office and take that space because it was just around the time when she was losing the apartment. Yes. And I kept telling her she had to have a toehold near the UN, and it's an inexpensive way of having a toehold because we're just paying for a desk basically. But we had a wonderful group in that. We still have a wonderful group there, but we will sorely miss Pam's desk and all of her, and Nina and all of the wonderful people that she brought in there and all the great programs that she ran. I mean, it's been just an amazing experience to have a friend like that.
Thanks for sharing all that, Allison. It's nice to finally put another face to another name.
Yeah.
We've been actually talking about the office, and we are going to let it go because it really isn't much of a point to having it right now, especially since everything's digital these days anyway. Mm-hmm. But Jim, I think, just collected 3/4 of all the stuff somehow, and he's going to go back for the rest of it pretty soon. But,
God bless him. It's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. She definitely. It's not like all of her work was on the computer. There's
right.
about 20 different notebooks probably. So thanks for all that.
Entire room that she had in the loft, which was stacks and shelves of all of those books and boxes of writing. The months she's going through it. It had to go somewhere.
Yeah. And how's John, by the way? Allison?
My son?
Yes.
Oh, he's good. He's good.
I haven't seen him in 10 or 15 years probably. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I used to see him back in the zeros. Uh-huh.
Right.
Great. Well, send him our best.
I will do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison, for making that space available for TribalLink, because I know Pam losing her loft was one of the biggest, she was so upset about that. So having, like you said, another space to physically ground her energy at was really important to her.
Yes, I'm really glad you got her there. That's great.
It took a little doing. I can't remember why she had some sort of reaction to not wanting to do it. I think something had happened in the past where she had tried to have a space there and it didn't go well. And so she wasn't sure. But it all worked out really, it worked out perfectly. She needed it and it was great to have her there.
Great.
Well, thank you.
Thank you all for being part of it, I'm really glad I was part of this.
Yeah.
And thank you all. And
thank you, everybody.
be well.
Yeah, thank you, Mark, for
making it
possible.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Mark.
As we get together more, we'll share, and thank you all. I've taken all your emails down, so we'll make sure that we reach back out. Thank you so much for being a part of it today.
Thank you, Pam, for bringing us together.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much for hosting, Mark. That was great.
No problem.
Unexpected too. So.
Yeah, beautiful. I feel so much better. Yeah.
And thank you, Andy and Nina, for holding so much during this period, and Roberto and Michael and Stefan and everyone.
Yeah, thank you to Diane.
We
Really.
honor you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy, Paula, Allison, Laura, Judith. Thank you.
Hope to see you again somewhere. New York, Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Martha's journey.
To New York.
Yes, New York. Always
Can you come?
Hard to say
I live in the woods. I live in the woods, and I'm missing. And I have lived in cities for decades and decades, so I always enjoy going back, and certainly certainly rendezvous with these extraordinary associations that remain there. Bless
Carol,
you
I
all.
want to tell you,
Thank
you
you.
resemble
You too.
Pam so
Wonderful
much, Carol. Every time I see you, I think of Pam.
Really?
Yeah, you look
Well, that's
like you could be sisters. Yeah.
I'm sorry I don't have any, I don't have such extraordinary photos from the 70s, but I've got some good ones from the 60s.
It's never too late.
Feather boa.
No.
Never too late.
I haven't got the feather boa photo up yet, so I'll look for that opportunity. Feathers, right?
Pam's
I wanted to also, I forgot to mention that today is also the Eastern European Orthodox Easter. So we're celebrating Easter today. So another holiday. And I just wanted to show you our colored eggs every day.
Oh,
Beautiful.
Wow.
So we're thinking of Pam today on this beautiful holiday. It's very meaningful.
Another bird image.
Yeah.
And rebirth.
Yes, exactly. Another bird image. Correct.
Yes, and rebirth.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Lovely to see you, everyone. Thank
Hey,
you.
nice to see you, Allison, Diane, everyone.
Yeah.
Look forward to getting those poems by email.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And hey, look forward to seeing the photographs. Thank you all so.
Wonderful.
Bye.
Have enjoyed the rest of your day. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.